So there is a power for good in the universe, greater than we are, and we can use it. We think, we feel, and we commune with this life force as the essence of our divine purpose. So if you only glean one thing from this morning's message, please know that in order for Spirit to flow through us most effectively, we must use it consciously. And this is the tricky part. If we dream of rain, the universal power says, you're right about that, and the rains come. Shirley MacLaine wrote a book called Out on a Limb. She was on an island filming, and on that particular island, it rained 365 days a year. And so she stopped the rain so that they could complete their project. So the things that happen out of the blue, even the weather, are always the result of our collective thought patterns. Our thoughts act upon the universal subjective mind, which sets the universal law in motion, and whatever we collectively believe manifests. As I enter the Garden of Fulfillment, which is the title of my talk this morning, whether I put conditions into effect or I bring them to an end, what I cultivate in my garden becomes my experience. And Dr. Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of the Science of Mind teaching, tells us in his book entitled This Thing Called You that we must eliminate the idea of good and evil as entities opposing one another and realize that there is but one life principle. So everyone is exactly where they're supposed to be, doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Webster defines fulfillment as the ability to develop our potential. The potential of hot is to boil. The potential of cold is to freeze. Whether hot or cold are good or evil is simply a judgment. It's better to ask where we are cultivating the beliefs that are in our garden. Are they coming from seeds of doubt, seeds of fear, or seeds of faith? And there are two gardens that I want to talk about this morning: the Garden of Eden and the Garden of Gethsemane. The Garden of Eden metaphysically represents the spiritual body in which we dwell when we bring forth our thoughts from the original divine idea. In the traditional teachings, of course, we know that this is the place where God created the first man, where he made Eve from a rib of the man, where they were tempted by the serpent. They ate from the apple from the tree of knowledge, and then they were expelled from the garden. So is this good, or is this evil? Charles Fillmore, in the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, says this: only the most limited and restricted material acceptance would bring this remarkable word, he's referring to Eden, down to a small area, somewhere in Asia, where the human race first emerged from the dust of this planet. So if we advocate a consciousness of separation, which is what is depicted in the traditional story when they were expelled from the garden, Our thoughts are not aligned with the original idea of spirit, which is that we are all one. In order to enter into the Garden of Eden from a spiritual perspective, we must come to the realization that God is our source. And when this happens, wisdom and love come together. Feeling, knowing, and embodying right thinking creates perfect balance. And then we can begin to spiritualize our experience. Metaphysically, the garden represents the ethereal body, that field of energy that surrounds the physical body, where our eternal soul dwells. When our thoughts are rooted in divine consciousness, we express in harmony and love. When our collective consciousness supports a world that works for everyone, we begin to unveil the original idea of the Garden of Eden. And then we can answer the call. And when we answer that call, we can begin to enter into a new experience of that original thought pattern of the one, which is the new earth. There will always be an opportunity for planting. No matter what your harvest was last year, a new season with new blossoms, new fruits, and new flowers is always available as potential. We can create a new future together if we believe that we can. Fear happens when we plant seeds of doubt. We all know the acronym for fear, false evidence appearing real. And this will affect the physical body. If we constantly expose ourselves to the media, for example, we might actually start to believe that the world is coming to an end. Faith, on the other hand, happens when we plant seeds of possibility. And we all know the acronym for faith now, right? Fabulous attitude in the house, which is that spiritual or ethereal body that surrounds the physical body. So I encourage you to focus upon a higher ideal, a unified consciousness. And when you do, heart-shifting light influxes will overwhelm the challenges of the third dimension. And that illusion will fall away as higher realities become brighter and brighter and brighter. The power of the Great Spirit is always available. It is unlimited in its expression. It operates according to the laws of nature, and we are the channel through which it manifests. Ralph Waldo Emerson says we are an organ through which the Spirit executes its will and performs its act of creation. Paint a new picture. Plant a new seed of thought. And then ask yourself if you can begin to harvest the new Christed consciousness. When we move into a conscious awareness of the I am that I am, religious dogma will dissipate, and the peace that surpasses all understanding will enter into our experience. So let's plant a new seed together this morning. Affirm with me, there is only one life principle. There is only one life principle, and it always works for me. And it always works for me. Now look at the person sitting next to you. There is only one life principle, and it always works for you. And let's do that one more time in unity. There is only one life principle, and this time it's for all, and it always works for all. So there's another garden at the foot of the Mount of Olives called Gethsemane. And metaphysically, Gethsemane represents the struggle that takes place within our consciousness when truth is realized as the one reality. And Gethsemane comes from the Greek, and it means oil press. The press was used to extract ointments for soothing and healing salves. And the oil, metaphysically, points to spirit and illumination. Extracting our old belief systems and absorbing new ones is how we build the atmosphere of our desires. The conditions around us will always come and go. The work is about growing our conscious awareness. Remember, in order to use the law most effectively, we must use it consciously as well as constructively. So how do we know if we're doing this? Dr. Ernest Holmes teaches us that we use the law constructively when we use it with love. And the fish, the colored fish, reminded me so much of our experience on Friday evening with the Chinese lanterns. Everything was just so colorful and beautiful, and it just really opened your heart, and it was just a wonderfully sacred experience. So we are always either absorbing or extracting through our belief systems. Our challenge is to determine the value of our thinking. Is it in alignment with what we really choose? The journey through our challenges can sometimes be compared to the oil press. Remember, that's where Jesus of Nazareth was betrayed, which is a symbol of trial. And sometimes we do go through trials in order to move into a higher ideal. The trouble with the limited power of ordinary thinking is the belief that the world is under material laws. When we agree with it, we make ourselves part of it. We must look at ourselves as spirit, as the spiritual beings that we are, not the flesh and blood of the human experience. And the birth of the Christed consciousness, which is the I am that I am, happens when our true self is acknowledged by the Father within, which is the original cause beneath our experience. I dreamed of heaven, and the earth sang, and peace spread over the land. Cultivate your garden, the garden of your soul, with prayer. Fertilize it with large doses of faith. Plant only seeds of love, and everything you cultivate is guaranteed to bloom. And the last idea I want to share with you this morning is weeding out the good thoughts. When you become too comfortable where you are, there's no room for expansion in your consciousness. If our seeds of thought don't get light, or if they don't have room to grow, they die. We are so close to creating a new earth. But it's up to us to strengthen the vibration of peace in our hearts. And if you need help, I actually counted 17 meditations on our calendar for the month of October. So dress up and show up. In order to weed out what's not working, we have to harvest what is. And that takes your participation. Light workers all over the world, including myself, have been planting crystals upon Mother Earth for about 4 years. She is amplifying and lighting up the grids in support of the Rainbow Bridge to the new Earth. Consciousness as a palpable reality is available. I dreamed of summer and the winds changed. I dreamed of freedom, and the moon rose. I enter the garden of fulfillment. Please bring your seeds of peace and join me as we resurrect the Garden of Eden, which is the original idea of the Great Spirit. It wants to surface through us. Let's let it blossom and burst forth as the new earth. Thank you, and namaste.